Welcome to TMI Today with Rita and Jen Lee. In this podcast, there is no such thing as too much information. We are diving into all of the taboo topics, from money and careers to relationships and parenting, to whatever else we've been too afraid to discuss as women. Listen in and join the movement as we raise each other up in our everyday lives.
Hello and welcome back to TMI, where we're using information to make today's motivational insights. And I have Mama Rita Bacuzzi with me. And as always, I'm Jen Lee, financial stress attorney. And we are talking about another fun topic today. Everyone's like, I don't know, but it's fun or not.
I think it's fun.
It's a word that gets thrown around a lot, but no one actually knows what it means these days because it's changed a lot. We're talking about recession and recession proofing so that you are prepared for when the economy goes up and down and you're not panicking during those times. So Rita has a she's our expert on this because she helps her clients with this problem all the time. And so Rita, how do you look at finance? What's the trick here with the recession?
Well, the simple, it actually gets to be simple trick is to be holistic, which means you get to look at all of it, which does not sound simple. But you really get to look at money from, I say, it's like when you're in an airplane and you're at a 50,000 foot elevation, you're seeing things very different than 10,000 feet versus being on the ground, right? Most of us seem to be on the ground while we're looking at our money situation. So I really like for people just to kind of be open to receiving a little bit of unique perspectives that I feel that are unique, but I actually find that when I say that, most people have been thinking a lot of these things and just never heard anybody else say it at the front of the room. So I basically get to validate them, which is so much fun because we do get to know our money. Money does get to be a little bit intuitive. It's a resource. It's almost kind of like, when you're hungry, right? And maybe it's not that easy, but it actually can be that easy as we start to explore. And this is why I talk about the 5 E's, because naturally the first one comes out, and that is exploring.
Yep.
So exploring, if you want to be a millionaire, what does that take? Exploring what has history done and how can I protect the money that I make? How can I make more money? How can I grow it safely? Am I willing to go to Vegas with some of it? What does that all look like? And
exploring is really fun. So let me jump in here. So because Rita makes this really fun to explore, and it doesn't have to be a scary thing. So I want that to be out there, that exploring one of the fun parts of this.
Let me tell you what, I have 3 basic areas where exploring is encompassed, and that it's a couple things. It's looking at history. It's also dreaming. I don't know how many of you have stopped dreaming your dreams about what's possible. And that can be the most detrimental thing to your life. And so I'm going to say writing down crazy dreams, like my one crazy dream that actually is not seeming so crazy. My first crazy dream was getting 1 million people aware about money so that they can be empowered around money. Well, that crazy number has been blown out the water because it's had that much exposure. Now it's really more detailed. And so this way you get to tweak it, which is super cool. So it's 5 million families being educated and empowered around money, very specifically. So that means they get to not only hear the information where they get to explore, but they get to learn about it. And what's really cool is it's actually a myth, which should have probably been in one of our other episodes, is that you have to be super smart and super intelligent. Well, I'm here to tell you it's different. As long as you know grade school math, multiplication, addition, subtraction, division, you've got this. You really got this. It's not like the math that we learn in school where it's, my brain feels like it hurts and there's decimal points and all this other stuff. I mean, there is some of that, but that's not till later. Money basics, people just get to know what they know about money from the basics.
So Rita, what does that help with in recession? What does the exploring do?
So exploring as far as the recession, it actually grounds you.
Okay.
So again, it's a unique perspective and process. So knowing your core values, knowing what's important to you. So recession is where, you're diminished or things are leaving you, right? It's you're receding back, money's depleting or income's not coming in. So holding on to those dreams are very important, because when you give them up, that's usually where people go down the spiral down. Really, the basis is core values. All wealthy people that I've seen and interviewed, there are great books out there. Hashtag values is one of them. That research puts a foundational platform to the recession, right? It's kind of like the stopping point. It's also the dreaming, the belief system, when and you're breaking through stories that aren't really never meant for you to hold on to. That's another way to stop receding back into depression around money, right? And then you get to shift that focus, right? So you're going to focus forward, or you're going to be looking in the rear view mirror. So anyone knows driving a car, if you drive the car looking in a rear view mirror, you're not going to get very far.
Right.
And it's the same with this resource tool called money, which is a vehicle. So you get to explore, but you also get to learn empowering principles, right? So you get to embrace them. That means you get to learn, like, what's your money purpose, right? How do I protect my money? I call it like having your love languages around money, and knowing so that money is flowing to you and not going from you.
Right.
So, and anytime you can, in recessions, that's where the most millionaires are made. And these are the perspectives around it with these E's. So learning key money principles. All wealthy people know these principles. And what's really cool is they've been around for hundreds of years, and they will still stay. They're always the same. It's the one constant, right? And there's really like 3 for saving and 3 for protecting. And there's, classes on that. But the next phase in that empowerment, embracement, is to expand your knowledge, right? Learn about your phases of the money, learn about these principles over and over again. And then you get to do the next thing, engage, right? Because if you take no action, it's mostly like there's a lot more E's than 5 here. It's entertainment versus education. So in order to elevate yourself that next level, I talk about having those money dates, right? And really getting connected with what I call the 5 P's, which are your purpose of your money, protecting your financial household, right? So if there's a major life health event, recession could be economy, but it can be your own
personal recession. Yeah.
So I talk about having financial cancer. So what's more important, the economic recession or your personal recession? If it's the economy, wealthy people are just watching other people go into recession, but they're not in recession.
Right.
They're in expansion.
Right. Because they're seeing opportunities, because they're educated and informed of how the economy works. So I think that's so key about what you do is the grounding and the education side of it, so that you can make good decisions instead of poor decisions, which usually lead people to me.
Yeah, it's exactly what you're saying. It's those foundations, and you're growing that money on the foundation versus accumulation. And accumulation is the next phase. But I'm going to tell you, on the financial side, because I almost didn't end up in the financial industry, because honestly, I just didn't feel it was honest in my perspective at the time. I was seeing a lot of things where I was being sold and told, right? And I can only share my personal experiences over and over again. I say I had to kiss a lot of frogs before I found my prince. A lot, too many. It's amazing I'm not showing up with all these warts all over. But you know what? When it doesn't feel right, you get to walk away.
Yeah.
If it doesn't feel right, do not be pressured. That should be a red flag that somebody, oh my God, you're missing an opportunity. The market's going to switch, blah, 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 blah. Whatever, all that chatter.
Yeah.
It starts to sound like the blah, 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 blah that I just did, because that's how it sounds in my
Sounds
head.
like Charlie Brown. Wah, wah,
Oh my
wah, wah.
And if you're starting to feel like apprehension, I touch this spot in my chest, because that's where I feel like, oh, this doesn't feel good. And for some people, it might be a gut thing.
Yep.
That's the intuitive part of it.
Mhm.
You know what? Take a pause. Pausing's okay. You
Mhm.
know, a lot of times we're on the FOMO, right? The fear of missing out,
Yep.
because that's what we're pressured into. No, you get to look at things, you get to pause, you get to take time. And this is how, and get somebody to help you, right?
Mhm.
Maybe an
Yep.
accountability partner, so that this way you're bouncing off ideas off.
Mhm.
I'm going to say preferably somebody that's not more broke than you are, or kind of at your status or
Yeah.
higher,
Yeah.
and has that same like-minded thinking.
Yeah.
You know, that empowers your personal recession around it, so that you can make decisions by being prepared,
Right.
right?
Exactly. Yep.
Not panicked. And I know you see this a lot, and people are coming to you
I
probably in a
do.
more panic state. So maybe you could speak a little too about the preparation versus the.
Yes. So I always tell people recession proofing. Of course, financial advising and getting your assets in a row, all that kind of thing is one thing. But what I saw, especially during the 2008 recession that we had, was people were cashing out retirement accounts to pay debt because they were panicking.
Mhm.
And they didn't realize that those accounts would be protected from their creditors. And so they paid off the debt, and then they ran the debt up again, because the recession didn't end when they paid off the debt. The recession was still ongoing.
Yeah.
And so what Rita's talking about with educating and keeping like someone to bounce ideas off of and not making rash decisions is really what I see as mistakes. Because people, they think, oh, I'm going to watch late night television and I'm going to cash out my retirement accounts and I'm going to pay off this debt, and then everything will be great. And it's not great. It's not a good idea. And so not panicking and not cashing out assets in the middle. Rita, why don't you cash out assets in the middle of recession? What's the market?
Oh, because we're in the down market, right?
Right.
Why would you, it's be in a low market where,
Yeah,
that's why wealthy people, they buy up in that time, right?
exactly.
So why would you do that?
Yeah.
And I see this for, again, when we look at like a little bit of a history, it's like 1980 to 2000,
Yeah.
Markets going up and up and up. Although there was the hiccup in 1987, which I remember very well. That was the first time. I remember I had just bought my first condo. Oh my God, at an interest rate of 16.86.
Got a great
Right?
interest
People are
rate.
like going, that's crazy. So things do change,
Yeah.
and I'm going to say prospectively balance themselves out. That hiccup happened, but I had my foundation and I had my reserves already,
Yeah.
because I had learned at least that from my parents about saving,
Mhm.
right? And you mentioned even in another episode, you don't leverage until leveraging means that you have resources to back that leveraging.
Exactly.
And so again, in COVID, while some people were cruising, other people kind of learned about their characters or other people's characters around money. And what you felt, well, what the good thing is that you could build all that up with, on the mindset strategy part of it is, again, the core values, but also your belief system and the habits that you have, or the habits that you want to have to create a victorious cycle in your life. But again, the phases. So, maybe at that point, like me, when you don't have two nickels to rub together, you get to start to figure out maybe alternative ways of finding extra income to come in.
Yeah.
There's so many ways. I actually have a list of like, and I encourage everybody to do this. How many ways can you come up with earning money? And I'm going to add uncapped earning potential of money, which means nobody gets to tell you how much money you get to make, right? So now you're growing all this money. Well, I mean, making all this money, well, you want to grow it. And so again, you have your options. We talk about phases. So there's that phase of money where we need it so that it covers our expenses, right? Our day to day. Then we have that building of that savings, hopefully at the same time is what it really best ideal situation. And then you have that excess money, and how do you want it to work for you? Is it long term? Is it short term? I think we should look at every bit of our money as long term, and then create buckets for it. Because if there's an event that happens, like the cancer or stroke or heart attack or an accident or whatever happens in your life, or a market recession that may affect you in some way by maybe job loss, you actually have it to pool onto, right?
Right.
And that reserve, people ask me, how much should it be? Well, if you're just starting, start with the day-to-day and get a month's worth, right?
Yep.
And then when you get that month's worth, do 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I like a year personally, because when I had cancer, this is the question that I ask people: if some major health event happens for you, then how long can you sustain? Can it be a week, 6 weeks, 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, right? So health events can last a long time. So you want, though 2 years is a short term, you can dip in maybe to some of that long term that's been allocated for emergencies.
Right.
To not be touched. And then if not, then you can maybe in the future have a bonus round the world trip or something, right? But that's for the future. It's for the now as an emergency backing, because I'm going to say you don't want money to just sit there and never maybe tap into it unless you want to pass it on for legacy. It depends on your beliefs. I get people that say, hey, my money, my life, I get to use it. My money, my legacy.
Yeah. And I think what the wealthy or what the well-educated understand is that not cashing out when the market dips, because that's our instinct as humans. That is our instinct, is like, get out of this right now.
Absolutely. And I'm going to finish because I didn't finish. I got sidetracked. I get so excited about all of this. We got to 2000, we had 2001 where that was that first down, which most of us did not realize, because many people got moved into the market because of 401ks, which was supposed to be their long term. So when their long term got hit, right? So what can you personally put into place that won't take a hit like that?
Right.
So people grew their money again, 2008. So think about this: in 2001, they were 65, right? And then they had to wait. How long did they wait? About 7 years, right, on average, to break even, not even to make their money, because their money was tied into a market situation. And so then the money went down again, and they had even less than they were 65. And you know what most people did, especially men, like married men, they cashed in on their life insurances. And then what happened is they died. And their wives, who had not worked because they were in a time frame where they didn't, they don't even get the Social Security. So now that woman is left with no assets whatsoever, in an age where she's not really, she's in her 70s or 80s and not working. It could be even 60s. And right now, the reason why I talk about it, we talk about recession, we have the highest elderly female population living below the poverty level. And now in some cities, and I can say this for a fact, living homeless because of that one action of cashing in a long-term asset. So you really got to look long-term and keep the leverage and keep it where
keep the emotions under control.
Right. So the protected state of the financial household and the persevering and the ongoing preservation of a certain aspect of it. Because I mean, we all get older. And either we learn in our younger years how to have a perpetual lifetime income stream that will help sustain us, right? And people, I'm going to bring this up, inflation, because it's kind of like the elephant.
The other word.
The other word. The reality is we all hear about that. Oh, offset inflation. Well, the way you offset inflation is to build more lifetime income producing assets.
Right.
It isn't a product. This is a product that will offset it.
Right.
It's a strategy. It's a wealth strategy, and you get to learn these principles. And it obviously takes a lot longer than today's episode to learn those things. But the cool thing is, it does become a system that becomes simplified once you learn it. Just like your job, if you go into a career, you studied it, you learned it, or you worked at it for a while till you got amazing at it. And then now it's like, close your eyes and do whatever you got to do. And it's like magic happens. That same thing happens when we recession proof our money through empowerment and education of that money mastery and that skill set mastery combined. It's not one or the other. They go together like the right and left sides of our brain.
They do. And I always joke because, and it's not a joke, but it's something I had to learn over many, many years, is when the market is down, I just don't check my account. Because people will call me and they'll be all panicked. They're like, oh, my 401k is down $100,000, something like that. I'm like, it's not down $100,000. Your balance is down. But if you don't cash it out, then you're not down at all. I like
that. So. And I think it's okay to look at it if you're going to look at it with understanding, like
exactly
what is your tolerance right now. And it's okay.
That was my joke. Was I know
look at it. And I'm like, oh, wait, because really, that's when people really are aware of what they want their money to do.
Yeah, no, it's very true. But what I was trying to get to is when I know that I'm going to leave it there, like that's my long-term strategy is to leave it there. Money,
and it's a good point to evaluate it and say, is this really where I want my long-term money?
Exactly.
Or is there a percentage that I really want to know that's going to be safe? That I need. So it's actually a great evaluation point. Or like you said, you know that that's the money that you're okay just up and down. And it's for the future. And if it's not, and you're not having that feeling, then you get to sit with somebody that's like a safe money expert. And you really need to get to ask that question, because just like there's different doctors with different professions, there's different attorneys in different specialties. Well, there's the same with your money. If you have your own financial planner and they've never discussed the safe money expertise side of it, then you need to find one that does. I'm not saying get rid of yours, but complement what you're doing and build it so that it will work the way you are seeing it, because that's totally possible. If you're talking to one that says, well, no, this is the only way, then you might want to find out, because usually really amazing financial planners and professionals are not your end all be all, right? When we diversify risk, we get to diversify the professionals in the financial arena. And that not just includes financial advisors, consultants, which are different. Consultants tend to be on the safe side, but different aspects. But that's your CPA. That's your attorneys like you in the diversification of what you do, right?
Yes. Yeah. So, and I always learn so much from you every time we do one of these episodes. So it's always so hearing about these topics that people don't want to talk about and are scared to ask. So that's why it's so great that we kind of put ourselves out there and say, hey, this is how I look at it. Here's what you should consider. So thank you, Rita. I really appreciate it.
Start the conversation going.
Yeah. All of the input. So recession isn't scary. You can plan for it. And we're here to talk about all of those fun money topics. So thanks, Rita.
Great. Thanks, Jen.